Alright, today's video is called Things I Wish My Vocal Teacher Had Told Me. Also, if you've been following me, welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Brad Allen, and I like to talk about my experiences as a full-time freelance musician and sharing things that I wish I'd known when I started this journey, along with videos of my music. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching it on Facebook, please follow or like my Facebook page, and that way you won't miss any of my upcoming videos. And so today I have just a couple different tips here. I started voice lessons when I was in high school, and I was fortunate I had a really good vocal teacher, great vocal teacher. His name was Boyd Bacon. And incidentally, he has become somewhat of a famous composer in the vocal music world. I didn't know this until many years later. I studied with Boyd Bacon in high school, and then in college I studied with Randall Stroop, who has also become a pretty famous composer, I guess. So anyway, when I talk to various vocal teachers in high schools and places like that, they're always surprised that I studied with two composers like that. But anyway, Boyd Bacon was a really great teacher in particular. And one of the things though that I really struggled with early on was my range. I was a tenor and I simply couldn't hit the high notes. And it seemed like no matter how much I practiced, I still couldn't hit the high notes, even the ones that were written for the tenor, so I knew I was supposed to be able to hit those. And at the time, a lot of the singers I was listening to sang, in the stratosphere. People like Brad Delp from Boston, Steve Perry from Journey. Anyway, so that was one of my struggles. And the second struggle I had was breath support. I remember in particular Randall Stroop helped me with breath support. But no matter how much I worked on it, it just seemed like it only got to a certain place, and it just wouldn't get any better. So it really was frustrating to me at the time. And what I did not know is that both of those issues were basically solved with time and practice. The main thing was time. The more I sang, the higher my range got. And the more I practiced and performed, the better my breath support got. So if you're a vocalist and you're starting out and you're struggling with these things, I'm just saying, give it time. Don't, beat yourself over the head wondering, how soon this is going to happen. Sometimes it just takes a lot of time. So that's one thing, a couple things I guess that I wish that they had said to me or told me in the beginning, because I wouldn't have had so much frustration. And then the other thing is, they told me, I remember Boyd in particular talked about hydration, how important that was. He said, the day before you sing, you should start drinking lots of water, because that's very important to keep your vocal cords loosened. Yeah, and so I've always tried to do that. Sometimes even the morning I have to sing, if I know that I had a lot of coffee or something the day before, which is pretty typical for me. That morning, I'll drink some extra water, so that helps. But the thing I found today, this was kind of interesting, a couple things. Over the last 2 days, because I do work as a freelance musician, I play a lot of different types of jobs. I'm primarily a jazz musician, but like most freelance musicians, I take what comes up, I guess I should say. So I do lots of different types of jobs, and I was figuring it out. Friday and Saturday, each day I think I sang 4 or 5 hours. Some of these are solo jobs, and I'm more of a singer than I am a guitarist or a pianist, so I rely heavily on my singing. So one of the things that I have discovered is that, like today, we went to church, and a lot of times in the morning like that, if I'm not warmed up, I can't hit the high notes. And this morning, even though I was completely exhausted, I had no problem hitting the high notes. And so what I find is, you know, the more you use your voice, again, usually the stronger it is. I had listened to a voice teacher years ago. This guy was a pretty famous voice teacher. He taught people like Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. And he said primarily when teachers say, or when people say that they're using their voice too much and they're afraid of it, you know, of wearing it out or something, he said that's primarily a myth. Primarily, the more you use your voice, the stronger it gets, and that's what I have found. So, I guess the last thing I wanted to say about this subject is that I have found that rest, sleep, definitely helps. It's hard to sing when you're really exhausted. But again, I have found that that's not as important as simply using your voice all the time. Even if you're exhausted, if you're using it quite a bit, for me anyway, I seem to sing better. I did find during quarantine, during the pandemic, for a while there I wasn't singing much at all because I was spending a lot of time songwriting, and I usually practice vocalises in the car on the way to gigs. But because I wasn't spending any time in my car, I wasn't doing a lot of vocalises, and I actually lost part of my range for a while and my breath control. But again, once I started performing again, and also, you know, I still do my vocalises, so it's not all performing, but a lot of it is. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time.